All right, guys, today we have Andrew Perry on the podcast. Andrew's the CEO of the Fine Estates team, currently the number 2 team in Niagara. Andrew runs 2 offices for Revel Realty in Niagara on the Lake and Muskoka, and is a director of the fast-growing Independent Brokerage. Andrew is also an international speaker and the host of That Fine Life podcast. Andrew, welcome to the show. Quick shout out to our sponsor, Landlord. If you want 3 months of free premium access, click the link down below. Andrew, we're happy to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
A little worried about that traffic getting in here.
Yeah, you're from Niagara.
In Toronto.
We're in Toronto today.
But every time I do that, honestly, guys, it says, hey, you're going to get here in like 5 friggin' hours. And then I get on the road and I get there in like an hour and a half. And then I got to chill outside,
You know what? It's opposite for me. I find that when I come into Toronto, it tells me like 47 minutes, and then it keeps adding time and adding time.
Do you have an iPhone?
Yes.
Do you use Apple?
I use Google Maps.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
'Cause I use Waze now.
Use Waze,
I used to
too.
never use it because I'm like, that's such a Toronto thing.
Yeah.
It's like WhatsApp. I just started using WhatsApp like a week ago.
No.
Even my clients are coming from Toronto now. They're like, okay, like, what's your WhatsApp? I'm like,
Oh, I hate
so
that.
actually, now everybody uses it so much I had to move it from one screen into my home dock because I kept missing notifications.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, no, I started using Waze, and then my car has live traffic, so I started using my car because I never trusted my car.
Yeah.
Always the app, but yeah. So regardless, got here early.
Beautiful.
Went on a couple conference calls before we started.
Yeah. Well, you are a busy guy. You do a lot. What's I guess tell our listeners kind of what you do. We spoke about it briefly, but what's your kind of day-to-day like?
Yeah, we our team is so on fire lately, and I felt that over the last 2 years, it's been very slow. Last year, Simeon talks about this. It was the slowest year on record almost for the Canadian real estate market. And, what I noticed very quickly is that if we weren't adapting the way we were doing things and creating a mindset shift into all of our team members, then there was no way that we were ever going to grow.
Interesting, because most people would say the opposite. So that's huge to hear, because most people are saying, hey, I was so busy during the COVID years and everything. I was on fire and I loved real estate. And now I'm thinking of getting a second job is what I'm hearing. And something like 30,000, 40,000 agents either have a second job now or planning to leave the business. So the fact that you were slow and now kind of have that market share in a, I guess, slower market now.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Well, last year Niagara was slow. Like there was 7 or 8 months where it was just like everybody was like, what the hell is going on? We had 2 months in a row that we goose egged, didn't sell anything.
Wow.
And you got 50,000 a month in expenses coming out. You're really like, what the hell am I doing here?
Hard to sleep.
But what we've always been good at is creating those relationships in real estate with our clients and our past clients and our, network. Our business is, my personal business, 90% agent-to-agent referrals. So we doubled down on that, focused way less on lead generation online. And that's how we managed, to become, we were in the top 10 last year, and then we're in the top 2, we're number 2 this year. And, I didn't even think we'd ever come close. We had our best year in one of the slowest years on record. And I think it was because the fact that we were relying on actual relationships, providing value and education, whereas most of the bigger teams were all just trying to get those transactions to come through.
Right. That's how you get market share, though. In a slow market, people say double down. Even mine when it comes to marketing and hiring out and that sort of thing, bringing more people on, costs money, and people think, well, slow your roll, like you're spending money and not as many transactions are happening this year. But that's where you get your market share, and that's where people start to trust you when things are slow. And anyone could do well in a market where every single person on the street is buying.
And obviously there's got to be an adjustment on your expenses to some degree from a crazy busy market to a slower market. But once you start like canceling things, taking away campaigns, taking away your traditional marketing, which I felt was very important over the last 2 years, that's when you lose your steam, lose your momentum. So what's the point? It takes you years to build up that type of momentum, and then for you to just, stop it, it just didn't make sense to us.
And when people stop seeing you, then it's almost like it's more noticeable when if somebody has like consistent, and then you disappear, it's like, what happened to them? They failed or whatever the case may be. So you have to be, if you're going to plan to do really anything when it comes to marketing, social media, it has to be, you're going to be consistent for the entirety of your career. Otherwise, you'll hurt yourself more in the long run, starting strong and then scaling back.
That's so true. It is.
Yeah. So most teams are a revolving door.
Yes.
Most real estate teams. And I think it's pretty evident in the quality of work that a lot of these teams are doing. It's a revolving door. People are looking for ways to make money, and then they're not making money. One person gets favored versus the other. And I think that big team dynamic is probably going to feel pain as time goes on.
I agree.
In a sense. So in your team, you told me you had 12 people. How are you keeping people happy? How are you keeping them staying?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it.
It's a great question. And it stems from the idea, you know, you always have to say, you've heard this 100 times, we, not me, you know, that kind of mindset. Well, for me, I truly believed in that, where my team's called the Fine Estates team. It's not called the Andrew Perry team. My team, we don't have our photos on our for sale signs. You know, most big teams, it's the team leader's face, and that's all. And there's no, flexibility in that, which is totally fine. That's how you build brand recognition. I get it. It's easier to remember a name than it is, a team name. But when I came in with that mindset, like, no, this is a group effort. It's going to be a collaborative effort. Your names can go on all the signs. That started or built the foundation of really fostering that culture that everybody's opinions matter. And really, we've had 3 people leave the team, but for the most part, our core 5 people have been there since the beginning. And, we have agents that are there 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So it means a lot. Everybody's opinion and ideas they're actually encouraged. So every team meeting, we talk about our wins, we talk about what's coming up, what's going on. We have open forums, and we really take everybody's opinions and ideas to heart and see how we can implement them. So, and everybody, here's the biggest thing too, is that everybody knows that if you're on my team, the way we are growing and at the speed in which we're growing, the momentum we've got, the ideas I have, the vision, the goals, everybody knows that there's a growth role for them. So when we say accelerated growth, we're not saying what most teams say, where, okay, we're going to get you leads, coaching, etc., which we do. But the accelerated growth is like, okay, look, we're going to be opening in another market. We're going to need somebody to help run that. Okay, once we have enough markets built out, we're going to need a regional manager. I already promoted one of our top salespeople from a sales role to our VP of sales. She worked at a convenience store for 20 years. Now she's one of the top sellers in the entire Niagara region. And I'm not saying that I did that. I didn't. I just helped her find things within herself. And so I think the other people on our team see that, and they're saying, okay, great. If I stay here with this team, with this culture, I can, exponentially grow not only my income, but also my mindset and
That's
my
huge,
personal.
Because a lot of teams even do interview processes and make you do things a certain way. Yep. And as a new agent, it's like, hey, I'll listen to you because there's so much to learn. But I switched brokerages a couple times, and it was only until there was no box that I had to fit in. It was like, you do you.
Yep.
Go out. I'm here if you need me, and I'm going to, number one, introduce you to, share my value that I can give to you being in the business for so long, and do you and run with it. And I'm here to support you in any way. That is what helped me grow, because coming from other teams or brokerages where it's like, you do things this way and fit into this box, and I'm very much not a person to fit into anybody's box.
Same.
That's what helped me. So I think that's huge on team building, is like, you grow the way kind of you see fit, and if it aligns with my values, like we'll kind of do it together. So I think
I think that's good.
There's too many teams where you have to do things the way they want you to do it, and then eventually they get sick of it. Eventually, especially if they get busy enough, then those teams end up losing those people. So how do you not lose people on a team? You allow them to grow to a point where they don't think they're too good to be on a team anymore. They feel like they're part of it rather than
exactly. Like they're getting the same amount of value back as they're putting in, or more.
Yeah. for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so it's funny that I didn't know that it was Niagara. I see you all the time on social media, so that's why I wanted to have share some, I guess, thoughts and ideas on this podcast. But I wanted to talk a little bit about your market too, because a lot of our listeners follow. A lot of our listeners, I feel like, aren't agents. So what we were just speaking about is helpful for agents, but for our listeners and buyers and sellers that have no idea what's going on in the market.
Yeah. I guess, what are you seeing in the market? Most of our listeners like it because of the economy stuff. So let's pivot.
The economy. It's like
what's going on in the economy?
Like, what is going on in the economy?
So I guess like in your opinion, I guess I did see you post a little something on Time for Change this morning on social media with Pierre Polyev, and we talk a little bit of politics on this too, because politics isn't the best thing to talk about, but it does correlate with real estate a lot of the time. So
it affects us all.
What do you see going forward, I guess, in the market? Affordable housing. Let's just jump into it.
Yeah. So you know what? Niagara has always historically been known, even during COVID. Yeah, okay, the prices went up way higher than they should have, but that was kind of blanket. However, it's still somewhat the same distance from Toronto as like Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo. So why did Kitchener, Guelph, Waterloo, why did those values go crazy high where Niagara's didn't? It's because Niagara still has a lot of work to do. And we're a very lifestyle, community-driven location. So the problem is that there's not as much infrastructure and opportunities as there is in the GTHA. So the prices have now people started to realize that, and prices are coming down. Now, having said that, your overall values are still higher in Niagara if COVID didn't happen. So it's not like the market has tanked and you've lost 50 to 60% of your value. You've lost probably on average about, let's just call it 20%. And we had,
if you bought during the peak
of
COVID
the
years.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. 2020, let's call it.
Yeah.
And so if you had bought anything pre-COVID, you're still way higher than you would have been if COVID never happened, in my opinion. Because if you look at the historical data, we've, over the past 50 years, maybe not in Toronto, but historically, we've increased by about 5% a year. It used to take my parents bought for $199 in the middle of the 90s. If COVID never happened, they'd sell it for like $600 maybe, right? Where now that COVID happened, it's an easy mill for sure. So what I'm finding is that I went to one seller just in Niagara on the Lake, Old Town, and yes, the value's there in Old Town. It's like Oakville. There's the only reason why that house is so much is because of the location and what the community provides. But I was like 2-1, man, like 2-1. She's like 2-1, 2-7. I'm like, what are you? Why? Why do you feel that your house is worth this much? I really want to know. Well, my neighbor sold for this. I'm like, that neighbor's 10,000 square feet. Like, so where are you getting this information from? Why do you feel it is the way it is? So that and uneducated agents, they're all kind of contributing to this inflation in the area where the days on market are going up, the interest rates are going up. I told you the story. My mortgage went from $3,500 a month to $7,000. I went from a 2.5% to a 6.6%. And now I got to eat $72,000 of interest only for the next 2 years for no fucking reason. Well, there is a reason.
There's a reason.
Anyways, if I wasn't as blessed to be in the position I am, like that would destroy somebody. I have 3 kids. That family would have had to move out. Who else has an extra $3,000 a month just to throw away?
No.
Right. So to answer your question about the market value is that if sellers don't get a little more realistic, there's the buyer market has cooled off by at least 30%. So nothing's going to sell. It's going to overall hurt the market because once people notice that and we can't put deals together, they're just going to start looking elsewhere anyways. They already started to. They're like, well, why am I going to look outside of Burlington if Niagara on the Lake is providing a more expensive opportunity, but in Burlington, I could still get granite countertops. I could still get this. I could still get that. Where I think it's putting a stall on our market. Like the rural aspects in Niagara on the Lake have completely stalled. We have a beautiful 12-acre property with a 20-foot high detached shop. It's got a pond. It's got opportunity to put orchards. It's got a nice house. 1.399 not selling in Niagara on the Lake.
Wow.
Like it's insane. It's, you know, people want this convenience of living in a town that has full amenities. They want a Sobeys or a Luongos, or wait, that's a hockey player. What do you call it? Longos.
Longos.
Sorry, you can tell I'm from you can tell I'm not from the GTA. So they want, you know, we don't even have a gym. We don't even have a gym. It closed down.
Yeah.
You know, you have to drive 30 minutes to go to the closest gym. You know, so I understand why, but if we don't kind of come down to earth, the real estate market's just going to stall where we are.
Yeah. It's interesting what you said. You said, you know, if COVID didn't happen, we'd be at this price point.
Yeah.
So are you of the camp that if we didn't drop rates to zero, printed all this money, because we really just, in my opinion, we borrowed from the future and that accelerated real estate prices. So here we are now with people asking like, where's it going to go? What's going to happen? I'm of the opinion that it's going to be choppy, kind of up and down, but not high deltas. It might just trade sideways for a little bit.
I don't think if the rates had changed, the COVID market would have changed.
Yeah.
I don't think if the rates, people might have gotten themselves less in comparable situations, but in my opinion, people wanted to get the hell out of the city because they didn't want to trip all over everybody and get COVID and die.
Yeah.
Right.
Money was also so cheap though. So buying that second property or buying the Airbnb on the lake or buying your weekend home.
Yeah, it came a lot easier.
HELOC out of your Toronto home that has $1 million in equity.
Right.
And buying a second property with that at a 1.5 interest rate.
Right.
All of a sudden your calculations make sense.
Right.
So I feel like Niagara on the Lake is a little
I do agree. However, if that rate was still high, but the prices were lower, it was kind of a wash there for a little bit. Now we're way too interest heavy, but I definitely understand what you're saying. But in my opinion, if the rates had chilled at 3 and 4, I still think we would have seen that mass exodus from the city of people, and they'll still trample over each other to try to win that offer because they really want the house, because it's still comparably a lot less than staying where they were. But you're right, for the secondary market, absolutely, I did exactly what you said. Pulled out and bought a cottage cash. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I did that too in COVID. I put a HELOC on. It just made sense. People like cheap money.
Yeah.
People feel all confident. Like we said that last COVID years, everyone and their mother wanted to be a real estate investor because numbers made sense. It no longer was this tough, calculation of how do I make this work if a HELOC is at 3.5 and my new rate is at 4 and this rent. It's just like slam dunk if it's an Airbnb or a double rental property.
And the rental investment market. I mean, look what's happening to multifamily right now, residential.
Yeah, a lot of sellers are selling their houses with the tenants in them because they're like, I'm so negative now that this doesn't make sense.
Right.
And it comes down to, the initial calculation that you should be doing is to, if you're on a variable rate, maybe not testing yourself at as high as they went. That would be extreme. But having cushion for all of the risks.
Margin of error. Margin of error.
So if we had all these, in your opinion, obviously is what I'm looking for, if we had these stress tests implemented, like, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, does that not seem like it was just too perfectly lined up? I mean, we had very, very low rates, 2016, 2017, I think, in and around that time. And then they brought in the stress test. And then, did they increase the stress test?
Mm-hmm.
Right? They did, right? And
that was when it was implemented.
Right. And then, so why have the rates gone so far above that?
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't make sense. Okay, let's test everybody who's buying a house. Can they make it a couple points higher? Yeah, okay, great. So let's increase it by 5 or 6 points higher. Yeah. And let's really push this thing. I don't understand what's going on. And I like, for example, here's a story. So I have my own house that I just told you about. I also have a mixed use. I got 2 commercial units and 4 residential units in it. Valued at around 1.4. It's in Muskoka. And I owe $650 on it. Okay. Making cash flow of about $2,500. so far. Once my new tenant is gone or my new tenant is in because my old tenant just left, that will increase another like $400, $500. So tell me this. Why did the bank that we go to say, okay, we'll give you $510,000? Like, what the hell are you talking about? This property is worth $1.4 million. I have a mortgage of $650 on it. And you're telling me that you're only going to give me $510,000 as well as increase the rates.
Wait, just $510,000.
That's all they're willing to give me to loan me for this property because I had to renew. I was coming from a private to a.
Wait, were you refinancing and pulling that out?
No. Like that's all they would lend me for that property.
Interesting.
If I wanted to keep it, I'd have to come up with another $125,000 or whatever it was.
Well, I don't even, if you really boil it
We went
down,
to another bank, by the way. But
Yeah.
Huh.
If you really boil it down, they don't know what they're doing. Like you have the new housing minister saying prices are not going to come down, but we're still going to immigrate a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they're going to come here and they're going to build more supply. And then you have the immigration guy saying that we need more skilled workers to come here to build more supply for immigrants to buy and live in too. It does not,
It's a
the
perfect
economics don't make any
it's
sense.
a perfect storm because
they're passing the buck.
in
Yeah.
terms of what you're just talking about, if you look at the job numbers that just came out, 45,000 jobs were lost in the construction industry. They weren't retirees like it was. Like I was assuming that it was baby boomers.
Yeah.
Who, a lot of them are in the construction industry, having retired. No, 45,000 construction jobs were lost, and that's due to developers not having new construction starts. But then they're saying we need, I think it said imperative or some verbiage like that, new immigrants to come.
And build these houses.
To build houses, we need them skilled. But now those immigrants are competing with these 45,000 people
Who are laid
that have
off.
lost their jobs.
Yeah.
But we need these immigrants to build houses, but we can't even house them.
It's all theater.
So it's a perfect storm. But again, it's like one person has a solution, and then the other one will say the complete opposite. Back to your story of one bank saying, well, I'll give you 510. It's like where they come up with these things. I think everyone's just trying to protect their butt at the end of the day.
To me, that just makes me a little concerned that is there something else coming? Is there more interest rates coming? Is there why would that? Because that just doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah.
So is there something else that's going to come out? Is there these 15-minute cities? Like this is up north.
Yeah.
This is in Bracebridge, Muskoka. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on. All I can do is that all my top clients are saying survive till 25, hold on to your properties, do what you can.
Yeah.
And, just hold it out.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, fuck, easy for you to say.
Yeah.
Now I got to give away, a couple $100,000 in interest just to make these properties float for another couple of years.
Keep them. Yeah.
In the hopes that the rates go down in 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Like higher for longer is the best saying right now.
Right.
Everyone thinks next year they're going to go down, and this is going to give us hope. But
the problem is that we're so short on inventory that it's almost like they're like, well, fuck, we know that even if we raise the rates, property inflation's still going to go on because there's not enough.
Yeah.
And if we keep bringing people in, they're creating their own problems. They're creating their own solutions, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's whack-a-mole. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. I don't
One thing and another is popping up.
Yeah.
And there's so much protection in Ontario. It's okay. Well, the Auditor General came out with her report on Doug Ford. Some developers got slipped some acreage. Fuck, everybody's been doing that since the dawn of time. Get the houses built.
Yeah.
And, I agree with the more affordable housing, but I mean, at the same time, it's like the amount that opening up that green space did was virtually nothing.
And they gave some green space, I guess,
Back.
but they added the exact same amount of acres somewhere else. So there's still 2 million acres.
I know. I'm saying open it up more is what I'm saying.
However, this is my thing. I agree with you if we were like crazy landlocked, which we're not. Niagara on the Lake, you're saying doesn't even have Sobeys. Tons of room to build there.
Yeah.
Tons of room to build outside of the Greenbelt. I like the idea of Ontario having a Greenbelt and protecting the
Me too.
natural resources,
Of course.
the farmland. Like at some point, urban sprawl has to be controlled, and we can't use up all that land because there's so much in Ontario
Right.
that we can build on. It's about even affordable housing. Like I don't even know if I completely support government buildings and affordable housing everywhere. I think there just needs to be mass amounts of supply where it becomes affordable in and of itself. Like
Right.
government housing where they subsidize the rent and subsidize the mortgage. I don't know if I agree with that. That's very liberal, supporting
Right.
the bottom. I
Yep.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Work hard, buy a house eventually.
And sorry, what I meant by affordable housing is like, just don't build it to make somebody want to pay you $2 million for the house. Build it so that, okay, somebody who can afford a $2 million house is like, I'm not buying that.
Right.
And keep those costs low.
This episode is brought to you by Landlord. Landlord's an easy-to-use app that is perfect for landlords or property investors. It allows you to track your cash flow or IRR, and there's a suite of other features within the app. You can get started for free down below in the description, and you can even use it as a deal analyzer that will help you make the right decision on your first rental property. We thank you guys so much for the support, and we're so excited that we're partnering with Landlord.
What about the types of housing that we build, like in Australia and in Europe, like even down to ductwork and everything? Like they're more on like heat pumps and stuff like that.
Yeah, heat pumps are great.
How can we bring down the cost? Because what are we at, 200 a square foot to build a very basic house?
Yeah.
That's even pretty low.
That's pretty
and
low.
that's just a basic house. So how do we bring that down? Is that even a question of what the standards are on how to build a house? They have to be, the electrical is even different than it used to be.
The code, all the code changes in Niagara, at least, that they brought out, I think it was like 2017 or so, added on average an extra $30,000 to $50,000 per house. So when your house is, when at the time was 400, 500, 600, like that's a fairly decent chunk of the profits that you had to add.
Right.
You had to add a 200 amp service.
Yeah.
If there was, I forget this number, so don't quote me, but if you had more than 20 feet, you had to increase to 2x10s or 2x12s or something like that. You had to have a rough-in for an electric car. You had to have the heat recovery system, the HRVs. You had to have those copper coils that were saving energy, right?
Yeah.
Saving that hot water. And all of that costs an extra $30,000 to $50,000 per house.
Yeah.
So like, no wonder builders were like, okay, let's. Now they can't sell shit.
Yeah.
But like, I saw one person. Sorry to get off track. There's one builder that was offering 10% commission. Another one was offering 6. Another one was offering 8, and one was offering a free car. Yeah. Bring us a buyer and we'll get you a free car.
That's crazy.
But here's the thing.
How's
I'm like,
that-
if
how's
you're
that
paying me
legal?
10%, I'm not doing that.
No.
Why would I ever have my buyer buy a house and I get paid 10,000 or 10% commission?
Yeah.
No way. Only way I do it is you pay me 3, give them 7% break.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's how desperate these builders are, because they'd rather do that than, well, they'll probably still end up going bankrupt. But at the same time, that's the problem with the industry as well. Like, I'm not a big, what I'm going to say is a little controversial, especially, where I'm sitting, but like the whole pre-con shit and the assignments and this and that, like it was getting so inflated that they were going out to places like Niagara, Fort Erie, blah, blah, blah. Half of them were cheap, shitty houses. The other half, by the time they closed, you can never rent. They all bought it to rent it out. And when they realized that they couldn't get $3,000 a month in Fort Erie for a house, they're like, well, what the hell do we do?
Yeah.
It's like,
they burn them
fuck.
down now. Arson-y's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
You see it all
right?
over Twitter.
Yeah.
Literally,
Insurance
this guy
fraud.
literally ran out of a house
Yeah.
and it's all burned down. Like all these fires are happening, and it's because people's backs are against the wall. They put $200,000-300K into this project, and they did their numbers at 2%. Now we're at 6%. It's not going to appraise. They need to come up with more money and hire someone to burn it down.
That's right.
What we're seeing.
And if
That is
some of the
Canadian
builders
real
weren't
estate
so
right
friggin' shady, man, like we have some really solid ones, like Pinewood Homes, shout out Pinewood Homes. Like we've got a few in Niagara that are very well known and they have a good reputation. But, it's just my opinion. I never felt comfortable saying, hey, yes, buy this pre-con so far out, anything can happen. It's a little bit of a risk. Next thing you know, you can't assign it. Market shuts down. Now you're stuck with paying a $1 million for the property that's worth $6.
Yeah.
So I never liked it all too much. Toronto's different. I mean, projects can get halted at any time, but for the most part, things get done, right?
Yeah.
But there's been a few that are canceled and people don't get their money back.
Yeah, BC did that. A few builders, they gave 20% down. They just said, hey,
Bye.
our margins are razor thin.
Yep.
We're giving you your money back, and we're
Yep.
not doing this.
That's sad for the builders too. Like how much money. I have a project in Port Louis.
Yep.
Okay, the Harbor Club.
Harbor Club.
The Harbor Club. It's
Yep.
it's a sweet spot. I didn't even know Port Louis existed out there.
Yep.
It is cool. And their construction loans day by day, it's like 10 grand a day.
Oh yeah.
And you need to do a certain amount of sales before you can begin construction.
Right. But
So
then,
it's like-
but there's another thing too. Sent a client there. Client loved it. Called me. Okay, Angel, let's write something up. I call the people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, didn't know they had a realtor. You got to pay me. You got to come up with 3 extra %." I'm like, whoa. That's the problem as well. Is like you got to respect the realtors, because look what's happening now. And if you can't respect and have a good relationship with the realtors, now you want to pay me 6% to bring my client there.
Yeah.
Not Harbor Club. I'm just speaking in generalities.
Generally.
Where it's like everybody wants, and I understand, I want a deal. Everybody wants a deal. Everybody wants to make the most and save the most. But at the same time, now they're begging for us.
Yeah.
And it's just new construction. It's just not my thing. It's just so much bullshit,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I don't think the numbers make sense at all anymore. The price per square foot.
Right.
It's crazy, but yeah, if you're a new realtor and you're seeing that 5% commission on this, you're telling your clients a great deal all day, which is a big problem.
That's a big problem.
People are getting in real trouble, real heat. So even when there wasn't realtors though, and people were lining up outside these Mattamy buildings and paying an outrageous amount when you could buy a resale tomorrow for $300K less, and now they're in trouble. People are legitimately in trouble as they close, and they're trying to sell for an exorbitant amount, and they're never going to get it.
It's not their fault. Honestly, I just chalk that all up as bad advice from their realtors, to be honest. Like, I mean, a builder's a builder. They've got their product to sell.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them at all for that. But it's the realtors that are now, you see it in Facebook groups all the time. Somebody help, my client can't close, and it's this and it's that. I'm like, well, you should have fucking thought about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody anticipates things anymore. People sacrifice what they want, in the future for what they can have now.
Yeah.
So an interesting comment that I have is, you sell pre-construction and it goes up and the rates hadn't changed and your client makes 500 grand and rents it. You're a genius.
Yep.
Now you sell pre-construction and the rates go up and maybe it comes down and now you're an idiot with bad advice.
Right.
So as much as I'm sure there are realtors that see that 5%, it's like, well, this is my big payday.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of pre-construction it's there for a purpose. Like people want new houses, condos, whatever the case may be. Maybe they don't have the full down payment yet. It makes sense. Maybe they love the location. It's like,
absolutely.
I can't wait. In 3 years when I'm done school, that's where I'm going to live. So I think just
it's more about the assignment thing that I'm kind of talking about.
If you buy too many and your goal is to assign, and you tell your client that do this and assign it, that's
if you
I always say
gambling.
I always say, especially because I've done a lot of new construction, I just say, look, can you afford to close on this property? If you can't assign it, no, then don't do it.
Right.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But most people don't ask that question.
Yeah, do not rely on assignment.
And a lot of times, even in the residential world, I'm like, can you afford to buy this house without selling your house? Well, what do you mean? I'm like, are we going to need a sale of buyer's property condition in the offer? Well, I mean, we just put it up. Like, what do you mean? Do I need financing? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And so a lot of people actually assume that their clients know what they're doing. That's why we never assume anything, and we talk to our clients as if they're first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
And we have to physically, because you might think that just because they've done a few transactions in the last 10 years that they know what they're doing. They could have either just lucked out, things have changed since the last time they transacted. So you'd be surprised, man. Like, even with that, the sale of buyer's property condition, where am I going with it? Oh, so they knew that they needed to sell it, but they would have just assumed that the house would sell to some degree. Where it's like, guys, if you fucking close on this property and you haven't sold your house, you're going to get sued.
Yeah.
If you can't find bridge finance. What's bridge financing?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. So now
This is why we do this podcast,
You can't
honestly.
even bridge finance if you don't have a firm sale on
Correct.
your
Yeah.
listing, too.
Well,
People
a
don't know.
lot of
People
people
have
don't
no
understand that.
idea.
They're like, I got an offer. Yeah, but that's conditional on sale of buyer's property too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And once one falls, they all fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had that happen one time where we all closed on the same day and our buyers didn't. We were relying on them and it was a trickle effect. There was like 4
Yeah.
and it was like a
Right.
Then we needed private money, and you can get creative if things
Absolutely.
need to happen. But it's a scary world out there if you don't have have a good network or really know what you're doing. Like in any situation that can come up in real estate, like you got to know that your team has been through it before.
Of course.
Yeah.
It can't be the first time your real estate agent is going through something with you.
Yeah.
Experience matters.
Ain't a mortgage broker for that,
So,
right?
Yeah.
And that's why we contact. The reason why, in my opinion, why we've been doing so well through this crazy, troubling time, uncertainty, is because we get on the phone with that agent, that agent, that agent, that agent. So if we had 4, I'm making sure that deal is based on a good list price for that house. That deal is listed, I'm contacting everybody. And, you'll find that realtor's like, no, this house is worth $1 million. I'm like, no, it's not. It's 700. And you're not getting this house unless you list it at 780, 795 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's, you're just going to screw everybody.
Yeah.
And mortgage brokers for that matter too. They need to be, you don't know how, you have to be in consistent communication with everybody. The lawyer, especially in the summer, lawyers away, mortgage brokers away. They didn't assign their file to anybody. Next thing you know, they didn't send their mortgage conditions. People don't understand that there's also conditions to get a friggin' mortgage, right? I'm surprised myself every time. I'm like, wait, I need to pay off my car loan? I need to pay off my credit card? That's like 40 grand. I didn't tell you that when we signed the paperwork? Sorry.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to be on the same page in markets like this.
Yeah.
And any market to be that.
There's a lot of moving parts to real estate that people don't understand. So
That's right.
experience matters.
But that's
in
the
any
thing.
market.
People think lawyers are smarter than us.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, I'm just joking. But they think we're all human,
Yeah.
and people run their businesses differently. Do you have an assistant? Do you have somebody covering you? This, that, and a lot of times people drop the ball on that kind of stuff.
Totally. Yeah. Once the deal is signed, it's like, okay, on to the next.
Yeah.
You got to have a system in place.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, it's crazy industry we got ourselves into.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of good court cases that'll kind of give us real estate law going forward. People who don't close and then they had to sell for $300K less. Like, there's going to be a lot of, new court cases that give us new laws that it will be good and more transparent for the industry. So
yeah. No, I completely agree. We're dealing with people's life savings here.
yeah,
In an economy where life savings are very few and far between, and most people's life savings is their house.
yeah. And all you need is a high school diploma.
Yeah.
And then you can go get your real estate license.
I've had sellers cry at the table because, they legitimately thought their house was worth 2 and they get 1.5 and they're like, this was our life savings. I'm like, honestly, I'm sorry you're going through this, but we can't just make money appear out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, it's about setting expectations, which I learned the hard way after that conversation. I'm like, shit, I should have done a better job at saying, no, your house is, I did say, hey, we should list at 1.49, by the way, but they wanted to list at 1.8 and all this other stuff, which eventually that's the difference between an uneducated realtor and an educated realtor, or one with confidence and one without confidence, is that had I told them confidently that, no, we're listing it at this price, we might have been able to generate more interest and get them more money, as opposed to having those days on markets go up and then eventually their market value goes down.
Price drop. Let's drop 10K.
Chasing the market.
Don't do anything. 10K does nothing. Yeah,
Exactly.
It's gotta be 50, got to be 100.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I know every day's a learning experience.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Every market's different. Markets are cyclical. It's fun when it's hot, and then it's terrible when it gets cold.
Well,
and
each one is hard. Like in the COVID, like it was an eye roll that every single thing was in a bidding war, and it was like, Right, let's go. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go. And
What should we pay? What's the
now
number?
it's tough too, because then they're relying on you. If they have a budget of 800, the house is listed at 599. It's like, how high could it go? You're almost relying on your realtor to tell you what the offer should be.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's kind of like you almost go under asking, or maybe a little over, depending on the client's budget. Before it was the realtor saying, pay this to get the house, and
Yeah.
because your pre-approvals were higher at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're on a variable rate,
Yeah.
right? Because anything can happen in the next
man.
couple of years if you wanted to go and buy another property, right?
Have you got any variable rate sellers that have contacted you? I've had my fair share, so I was wondering if,
Yeah, but honestly, Niagara on the Lake's my clientele's a little different.
Okay.
Majority of my clients are 55, 60 plus.
So they have the life savings. They probably paid cash for the house. It's a little
Equity,
different.
yeah, potentially carry two houses.
Yeah.
Or they're younger, kind of executive style, where they're not interested in necessarily investing. They're more just buckling down and getting themselves a nice executive house.
Yeah, full transparency. Everyone who's messaged me regarding a variable rate has been a millennial,
Yeah,
and they've had to sell.
And they've had to sell. No way.
Couldn't handle it.
right.
Underwater, pulling from a line of credit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't do it anymore. I can't sleep. Sell this thing.
Yeah.
Even if they broke even, they'd be like, I don't care. Just try and get me to break even. You know, most of the time they make money because they've held it long enough. But
Yeah.
Sad.
Well, and what's even sadder is when those people do get desperate or in a bad spot and they're still listing it higher. Like we had a client that bought new construction. Builder was selling it for $150,000 less.
Than what they paid.
And he wanted to list it at 530. Like, why? I'm like, you're going to get sued because you can't get closed. You physically can't close. And it's like the same thing, you know, even in the resale market, where it's like the bank is taking this house from you. It's not worth what you want to list it at. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? It's not going to be able to close. You're going to get sued in this, that. You want a bankruptcy on your credit file?
No way.
Like, I don't understand. So I feel bad for those people, but also when they don't want to listen, you got to be like, fuck, I don't.
You got to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
I'm not your friend. I'm not here to, sugarcoat things.
There's no judge.
Yeah. I'm not your, I'm not your
No
mama
judgment.
here making you chicken soup. I got to tell you the truth here. So anyway, so let's finish up with you a little bit. Where do you see yourself going? You got your hands in a lot of things. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you see yourself doing?
Honestly, we're taking the brand awareness up 1,000%, shooting for a network television show this week. I've worked on a pilot last year. We decided to scrap what we did because we wanted to change it up a little bit. We put it to a couple of networks. They didn't pick it up anyways. So we're going to make some adjustments on that. From the real estate standpoint, our goal in the next 5 years is at least to have 2 or 3 more offices open, and within 3 years have about 50 agents, and in 5 years have hit that 100 mark. So it's crucial for me. Everybody's like, well, why don't you just focus on your market, this and that? Like, look, at the end of the day, we have to go widespread. We have to not turn people down that want to work with us, and we have to find a way to really get international. And that's how I feel the industry is going. I feel that, as you know, my clients, ever since I started in this industry, they were cottage in Muskoka, house in Niagara, second house in Florida. And I want to be able to facilitate. If it's not Florida, is it Texas? Is it Alberta? Is it Banff?
Yeah.
I need to be a part of that transaction.
That's cool.
What I've noticed over my 7 years in the business is that with my 90% agent-to-agent referrals, they just keep coming because they understand the service that we provide and the network that we provide. That, you look at some of these big guys, Josh Altman, Ryan Serhunt, they've got their licenses in multiple different states.
Yeah.
And they have it for a reason because their clients are going there. So why not be a part of that transaction? So growth is huge. And,
I find that a lot of the big teams, and a lot of my clients say this to me after meeting with me and maybe a few other teams if they don't have a realtor, calling up whoever you see on the signs. I don't even want to name names.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
Interview the big teams. You're not getting the guy.
No.
Right? So that's a thing where it's like, if they're taking on anyone that wants to join their teams,
anyone with a
they're
heartbeat.
just they're just getting
bad
whoever
advice.
you become a lead, you don't become a client. So that's why I think it's so important that, and I've restructured my team too, that like my people are like Brooke 2.0s, where it's like, you got that because I know what you say to them is going to be what I said to them, and not somebody that just got their license.
Yeah.
Like, I want to join the biggest team because I want experience, and then so much volume comes in. Here, take this lead. Here, take this lead. Whatever.
Yeah.
You don't get the big people anymore.
No.
That's why I'm trying. How I'm trying to structure my team.
And that's why it was so important to separate. So it's not an Andrew Perry team, it's the Fine Estates team. And so like I've rarely put my face on, I don't put my face on anything other than my own personal Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where whether it's ego, whether it's, you know, you as an owner still produce 80% or more or slightly less of the team's business, that's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a difference between what I just mentioned now and a true CEO, somebody who runs the play. I'm not interested in being Andrew Perry, the number one realtor. I'm interested in the Fine Estates team being the number one team. And if I've got to, you know, step out of my sales to make that happen, then I will.
Cool.
How many sales justifies being the second place team in Niagara?
We're currently at like the 70, 80 mark right now, a little bit slower. Last year was, we finished with like over 120 or something like that, but our sales volume is high. So our sales volume right now is close to 100 mil.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Right.
awesome.
And there's just about 1,600 people in realtors in Niagara, give or take.
Okay.
Amazing. Good for
Very
you.
good.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well,
We've
hey,
been managed. We did 100 mil last year. So our goal is to finish with 150 by the end of this year.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I felt this is a refreshing conversation. It's always good to hear from a, you know, bigger team guy that he cares about his people that he works for, and it's not a revolving door and and things like that.
Solid
It's good to
crew.
hear economic output. You got any more questions?
Yeah. No.
You're good. All right. Well, if you have I know you have a podcast. If you want us to ever come on, we'd love to
Oh
be
yeah.
a part of it and chat a little bit more. And well, you got to grow.
It
was good to collaborate with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have you on again for sure.
Yeah, it's great because we don't do a lot of like stat style and opinions.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, as I think I was mentioning off camera, is like we really want to take the podcast in a little bit of a different direction. You don't want to have, you know, the same regurgitated stuff on and, you know, more of opinions. And I think that's what people actually want to hear too.
We got a lot of those, don't we?
In an economy like this, we're so divided as a country right now, more so than ever before. So it just, as much as it's controversial, it puts things out there. And it also, as much as people maybe don't want to hear something that is complete opposite to their opinion, at least it's out there. And then the people that have the capacity or ability to be like, interesting. I never thought about it that way. Because even when I read the comments and I get somebody saying something to me, I'm like, good point. So it helps. Like when people are throwing their opinions at each other, as much as it is sort of like a fight, it does put all the opinions out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And people can make that decision for themselves.
People are kind of rude sometimes, but some people just share their experience and say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing. And then we've read some of those comments on the podcast.
They've been good.
It becomes real and not necessarily just what we're seeing as agents who just look at it every day.
I agree.
But what clients are actually going through and what people, even in other countries or immigrants that have recently come here, what they're going through and what their opinion is versus what maybe an agent, some people see us as a big agent that has not really affected. I don't care about their opinion, but when we take everything into account, it becomes helpful, I think.
Sure.
I agree. Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, where can people find you?
At the Andrew Perry.
At the Andrew Perry.
Andrew Perry. I like
All right, cool. We'll definitely link
because before I couldn't get verified before you could pay for it, so I was getting everybody like making fake accounts, like 50 a month.
Oh God.
Yeah.
50 a month.
Yeah, I got one person, you know, actually fell for it.
Oh, geez.
There's a few people that like will send me screenshots, be like, "Hey, this guy's impersonating you." I'm like, "You've been talking to this person for like a week, so this is bad." So that's why I got the blue check.
People sometimes text from me, "Hey, it's Brooke Hick.
I know.
You, whatever."
Yeah.
That's creepy.
There's no limit to these fucking scammers, man. But yeah, no. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll link Andrew's stuff down below, and if you guys are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you want some more short form content, we're on TikTok and Instagram as well. And if you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify, please give us a rating as it helps us grow the show. Yeah, we appreciate you guys so much, and take good care. Bye.
Bye.